Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to conduct our first integration test dedicated to Pocket Goods Database Manager. We're going to make sure that the Database Manager is working fine. App tests, going to delete this, we don't need it actually. Let's create the same structure as this core app. This is just a personal preference. I'm gonna create here a new file, Pocket Goods Database Manager test. Testable import core app module. To test the Pocket Goods Database Manager, first of all, I'm gonna initialize or define here the memory database. And because we are dealing with publishers, we need to create here the consumables. We have two options, setup or setup with errors. I prefer to use setup with errors. Next, we have to provide the memory database. Erase database on schema change. We are on testing. We're going to set true and in memory true. And this is basically why we have done this builder in order to create the instance in a very dynamic and reusable way. Now for the version 1, for example, and we have to build to provide the instance. Now for the cleanup, which is very important. After each test, we need to assign memory database to free the resources by assigning null and call the try super and tear down. Now let's create the first test. We need to make sure that the Pocket Goods database builder should initialize the object memory database. We have to just run a simple assertion here by doing xc test and assert not null memory database. If it is not null, it means that the Pocket Goods database builder can initialize and create for us an instance of memory database. The next test that the Pocket Goods database reader should not be null. In this case, we're gonna do memory database, check if the reader is not null. And another test, we need to make sure that the writer should be initialized. Let's arrange writer equal memory database, and because it's nullable, and writer. I'm going to assert it's not null. All right, first things first, let's try to run the tests. We're going to, it should be basically registered here. Run all the tests at once. Let's do that. And all the tests passed. Here you can see the indicator that all the tests passed, which is very good. Now we need to test that the Pocket Goods database manager should create for us the tables, non-nullable value from the memory database and writer. Otherwise, going to do here an early return. You can add here, for example, writer not to be null, to use the writer and to read from the database. We're going to check if all tables exist by doing try and assert true database table exists, and let's pass here the images table. Likewise for the products table, users, wishlist, and app settings. Check, for example, for the images table columns. Gonna store the columns here under images table colon, database, and columns constant, and images table. Now we have the images table columns. We need to get the names of the columns in order to make the assertion. It's gonna be a set from the images table columns. We are interested only in the name of the column. It's the same thing actually for the other tables. Let's make the assertion for the images table, and for the rest it's gonna be with the same manner. I'm going to assert equal images table columns name. Basically it's gonna be the expected ones. With the same manner, we're going to make the assertion for the products and users, wishlist, and app settings. Let's run all the tests. And the test passed. Basically, we are now 100% sure Pocket Goods Database Manager can create for us the tables. Now we have to make sure that the Database Manager should create and insert the data. Now we have the writer. Let's try to create some dummy data. First things first, let's get the instance database from memory database. The user first by doing try user DTO and to user entity. Insert the wishlist or the related wishlist. What we should insert here is very crucial. We need first of all to insert product detail, then the media. When we are done inserting the product detail or the related product detail under wishlist item DTO and saving or inserting the related images for this particular product detail. We're going to insert the wishlist item DTO. Now let's come back to the method or the test case. After getting the writer, we have to seed the database. I'm going to store here the user DTO. Now let's try to get the data of the user. We are not going to test on the writer, but it should be the memory database. Retrieve the user data from the database. Now it's time for the assertion. Now we need to make sure that the user data is not null, and we need to make sure that the user ID and user ID from the database are equal. We have the same count and the wishlist. We're going to loop over this user DTO.wishlist. We are looking for basically this particular one, item DTO and ID. Otherwise, fail the test. And we need to make sure they have the same title. I'm going to store here the images to be tested. The two arrays should have the same data. Finger crossed, let's run the test. If you do remember, under the implementation of Pocket Goods Database Manager, we have implemented a method or a function that's going to stream user data. It's called streamUser. Therefore, I'm going to add here a function, test function. As usual, we need the instance memory database. After seeding the data, we're going to act basically by observing the changes of stream user by doing try and memory database stream user, and let's provide here the user ID, mock data and user DTO and ID, sync, and the user is from the database. Next, we have to store in the consoleables. I'm going to create here a variable. I'm going to call it observed user state. Under the sync, add the data to the observed user state. We need to specify a condition where we are 100% sure that we have the intended outcome, which is very simple. User is not null. In this case, we're going to cancel listening or observing the events or the emissions from the database. In order to fulfill the expectation, by doing here expectation, fulfill flag or tell the test that we have met the expectation. Now we are not done yet. We need to make the assertion. First of all, we have to await for the expectation to be fulfilled. And we have to test here basically if we are under the Swift greater than 5.8. What you have to do here, we need to await the fulfillment of the expectation, which is an array, and then we have the expectation. And let's add here async to this test function. We need to wait for the expectation, and if we need to make sure that the observed user state is not empty. Observed data matches the mock data, the last element, which is basically the last emission before meeting the expectation. And that's all we have. Let's run all tests at once. And all tests passed with green flying color. For the next tutorial, we will implement Core UI. I hope you have learned something new. See you in the next one, and happy coding!